Welcome to Fancounters. My name's Nick.
And I'm Elizabeth.
And this week on the show, we've got a television icon.
Yay!
Linda Gray, who played Sue Ellen Ewing, is going to be on the show. Before we get to her, though, Elizabeth and I are always very, we tell you that we go to the movies a lot.
We do.
It's our thing. And so sometimes we go to the movies together. So Elizabeth texts me on usually Monday night and said, hey, I'm going to get tickets. This is the show we're going to see. Do you want to come? So, of course, I'm going to say yes most of the time, as long as it's not some really lame movie. So she's like, we're going to see Shape of Water.
Yes.
Yeah. If you know anything about Elizabeth, she does not like the horror genre.
Not at all.
So we're sitting in the movie, well, first of all, we're walking to the theater, and I was like, Elizabeth, I'm really surprised that you wanted to see this movie. I'm like, it's about an alien that these women take home, and it terrorizes the town.
Yeah, you don't actually say this to me until we're sitting down. So we're in our seats, we have our popcorn, and we are ready to watch the show. And Nick goes, I can't believe you chose this show. And I said, well, I did read the little blurb, and it said fantasy sci-fi. And it was like a Beauty and the Beast kind of, updated. And I had seen previews because it shows in before some of the movies that we had seen previously.
Uh-huh. And
not until the previews before the movie started, which were all horror previews.
Horror movie after scary movie after.
That my face is in my shirt trying to not watch any of these, thinking how I'm going to have to escape and go watch Ferdinand or Coco because I'm not going to make it through this movie.
Yeah, but the other thing is, you're not always quiet in the movies.
Yes, I am not.
So
no, I'm quiet in the movies. I'm not quiet in the previews.
All right. Scary movie previews are coming on the screen, and I said, Elizabeth, we should go see this movie.
No.
And Elizabeth is like, I don't even want to see this movie that we're here to see. It was weird.
It was there. No, I was completely terrorized just by the previews alone. And then the movie starts.
Nightmares.
And then I am. I mean, I can still have nightmares from somebody dragged me to see the original Friday the 13th. I was in my teens. I still have nightmares. I am nearly 50.
Just shaking my head over
I
here.
do not do scary movies.
Okay.
And the movie starts, and it starts all underwater. And I think, oh my God, how am I going to get out of here? Now, for those of you listening, I did make it through the entire movie.
Yep.
However, I was up all night.
Oh, yeah, really?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't hear this part.
I was up. I kept dreaming about the movie. And there isn't anything so scary that it's certainly not like a gory, bloody, there is some
blood.
There is some blood. But certainly not like some hack 'em up, gory, bloody, spooky, scary thing. You see everything coming. But I could not shake it out of my head. And it was almost 2 days of restless sleep it took me to get it out of my head.
You were very sensitive.
I am. That's why we do not do scary movies.
I forgot about it 10 minutes after we saw it.
Oh, my gosh.
Seriously. All right. So she's waiting in the wings right here. Linda Gray's on the phone. And let's talk about her. This Emmy-nominated and Golden Globe-nominated star was seen every week on the hit television show Dallas from 1978 to 1989, and again in that wonderful reboot in 2012 to 2014 when the show returned to TNT.
Linda has also been seen on Broadway in The Graduate and starred on stage productions of The Terms of Endearment, as well as her role as the fairy godmother in Cinderella. In 2015, she released a tell-all book entitled The Road to Happiness is Always Under Construction. Today, we are going to find out about what she says about the key to a happy life.
I'm really excited because she's got such an uplifting personality.
She does.
And just a way of talking about, at her age, she's got a lot of wisdom, and I think we can learn a lot from her.
Well, and she's nothing like Sue Ellen.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So we're going to find that out firsthand right along with you.
Coming to you from nowhere near the entertainment capital of the world, this is Fancounters, the podcast.
You're amazing. You need to come to Hollywood. I'm going to make you famous.
There was this mob of people, and they're screaming my name.
Crazy fans.
Stop following me. Don't come around my house. If you do, the cops are going to be at yours. I think this guy wants to fight me. Ended up being a fan.
There's just like security guards with like M16 holding like fans back.
Are you kidding me?
I continually will get stopped.
Can I take a picture? We're gonna. Oh my God!
I definitely declined signing body parts.
Oh, I don't want to go there.
I'm the only one that's ever been on Sam Jackson and lived to tell about it.
That's why we call it Fancounters.
I don't think you're going to last on the air very long.
Good morning.
Good
morning.
Where are you?
We're in Milwaukee.
Where are you? Milwaukee. Is it cold? Are you freezing?
Why, yes, we are. We have 6 inches of
no,
snow.
I thought about that. I thought, I think they're in the cold area. Yes.
We are.
Yes. Luckily, we were not taping yesterday because Elizabeth never would have driven over.
Yeah, I don't do snow.
To do that.
No.
So.
Yeah, it was snowing yesterday all day.
No.
Yeah.
No, I would have felt terrible if you drove in the snow. No, that's not acceptable.
Yeah.
No.
The roads were clear this morning, so I'm like, yes, that will be fine.
Well, I'm glad that you made it this morning.
Thank you very much.
Now, a lot of our listeners were really excited when we announced that you were going to be a guest on the show. One listener even commented how they were very surprised to learn that, well, they're like, because I said, let us know if you have some questions for her. We'll ask for you. So we have some of those coming up. But one commented that they were surprised to learn that you had polio as a child and you were like paralyzed. And that is something I did not know.
Well, I think everyone has a story, and that, in the book, it's like we all have a story. We all have a book when we write about our life, if you choose to do that. But I just revealed things that I thought, I kind of went through, little highlights in my life, and polio was there because my grandfather had polio. He was 17, and he lied about his age and was working on a railroad. And he got polio, but at that time, they didn't know what polio was. So he was always, from the moment I arrived on the planet, he was in a wheelchair. And at age 5, I was diagnosed as having polio. Well, the whole family went crazy. They were like, "Oh my gosh, she's only 5," and it went on and on. And I was excited. I said, "You know what? Why are you so upset?" And I remember this clearly. I said, "I get to have my very own wheelchair, just like Grandpa, and we can ride around together." And my family was just beside themselves. And they said, "Well, she's going to have to go on an iron lung, etc." And there was an exercise called the Raggedy Ann treatment. I've never heard about it since. I think maybe it was something the doctor created or so. I'm not sure. Anyway, he told my mother what to do, and she did this exercise with me every single day, several times a day. And she did this. You lift your leg up, and then she let go of it at the top and let it crash down, not crash, but fall down on the bed. And she did it, and it was iron lung or stay home with this. And I couldn't see my friends. They would come to the window, and we would talk through the open window. Aww. But I couldn't get out of bed. I was, stayed in the bed. And finally, through the exercises that my mother did, I was able to avoid the iron lung and to walk.
Wow.
I was going to say, I've watched you walk carpets. I don't notice any strange gait or anything.
Well, there isn't. Honestly, there isn't. And that's why subtly throughout the book, the cover, I didn't want the cover because I thought it was too glamorous. I wanted it more a real picture. But everybody wanted the legs.
Yeah.
And then it's a subtle thing that goes all the way through the graduate poster and then on stage in the graduate. All those sort of... But there was a lot of leg stuff, and I take a gratitude walk every morning. And I'm very grateful for so many things in my life, but I'm very grateful that I can walk. So legs had a big influence on my life from age 5.
In 2015, you released a book with the brilliant title, The Road to Happiness is Always Under Construction. And while preparing to talk to you today, we saw a lot of your appearances promoting the book, and each one you lit up the room with your positive energy and your infectious smile. Have you always been so joyful and optimistic about your life?
Well, I'm a human being with normal reactions to things, but I chose, and I love the word choose, I chose to be, to be optimistic and look at the world that way. That was really my choice. I didn't have a great upbringing, but I felt loved, and I thought, this is the way I want my life to be. And so I literally chose, and I worked on it. I still work on it. I choose to look at things on the bright side.
Did you ever second guess putting yourself out there like that in this book? Like thinking, oh, maybe I shouldn't tell this story or shouldn't reveal this about myself?
No, I didn't. I wanted it to be truthful. I thought, why would I write a memoir? I was kind of surprised they came to me anyway. And I thought, they came to me wanting me to write a memoir. I thought, oh dear, do I really want to do this? Mm-hmm. And I was shooting the reboot of Dallas. And then, so I was in Dallas, Texas when this offer came. And then we had that sort of dreadful time where we didn't know whether we were going to be picked up or not, which we were not. Mm-hmm. But there was a 6-month delay in not knowing. And so the second we heard that unfortunately they were not picking us up, I got an offer from Panto in London. And I got on an airplane and went right over to London and did Panto playing fairy godmother in Cinderella. So all the while I was writing the book. So then London, so it was challenging writing when you're doing a series. Mm-hmm. That was Dallas. And then when I went to London, I would write in the morning before going to the theater. And we had two performances a day. So that was challenging enough. And I would write in the morning and send it over via email to New York to be edited. And then at night when I got home, there would be the edited version. I'd make my corrections, send it back. So it was a challenge to get that done. But I made my deadline, and it came out right before my birthday. So thank you to all those people in the editing that got it done.
So we all know that you had the role on Dallas playing Sue Ellen Ewing opposite Larry Hagman. And it was fascinating to find out you didn't really start an acting career till you were like 38 years old. So I'm sure it's a well-known story by now, but talk us through, just for our entertainment, the decision that you made to go against your then husband's wishes. You took acting classes, you pursued that career, and you really made your dream come true.
They all talk about overnight success and all that nonsense, which, it's like it takes 15 years and all of a sudden you're an overnight success. No, but I was doing, my parents didn't, acting was not on the list for anyone to do at that time when I was growing up. You could be a nurse. You could, anything, a caregiving type. You could be a teacher. Mm-hmm. You could be a nurse. And sometimes if you were really, I don't even know the word. Anyway, you could be an airline hostess, I think it was at that time.
Sure.
Stewardess or something, yeah. And so, when I announced that I wanted to be an actor, that wasn't quite acceptable. It was like, what? Where did that come from? Why do you want to do that? Anyway, I started doing commercials and modeling, and I thought that was much more fun than studying to be a nurse. It was not my deal. Right. Anyway, so this was my dream. And so I quietly pursued this, doing commercials and modeling, and I could be home with my children. When they came onto the planet, I could be with them, and that was exciting. I thought, this is a perfect job. Anyway, so I was doing little bits. I didn't rebelliously go against my husband. He didn't want me to be an actor either, because we lived in the country and we built this house and had chickens and horses and dogs and cats, and it was a different life for me. Anyway, so I was doing little bits and pieces in acting and modeling and having a wonderful time. But my goal was, I never lost sight of my goal. And so I had all these interviews, and I was doing a series in 1977 with Norman Lear. And the casting director, a woman named Ruth Conforte, she said she was hired to be casting the small characters on Dallas. And she said, have you met Linda Gray? And they said, no, who's she? And they said, please see her. Ruth said, please see her, and kept begging. They said, no, we really want Mary Fran, because they'd already cast everybody else. And Mary Fran was a blonde, and Victoria was brunette, so they thought that was a nice combination. And she kept bugging them. She said, well, just see Linda, please. So I got the wonderful timing of the appointment was at 5 o'clock on a Friday evening. Now, that's the worst time ever to get an interview, to meet anybody, because everyone wants to go home.
Yeah.
Right.
So then they could care less. And there wasn't any script for Sue Ellen, because those were the minor players, and they didn't have a script ready. So they kind of threw together a little scene. It was a one-sided conversation where Mr. Hagman, J.R. Ewing, calls home to Sue Ellen and says he won't be home for dinner because he's working at the office. Well, we know what that was.
Yeah, working.
I've seen the show. I know what happens.
So I went in and I read this one-sided phone call conversation. And going to my car, I said, I've got that job. And I don't know why. It was maybe intuition, something, I don't know. But I knew I had that job. And I was right. And so they were going to shoot it originally in Burbank. And my husband was then art director at Warner Brothers Records. So we thought this was great. We could commute.
Yeah.
We could carpool and do all that stuff. So we had it all figured out until the dreaded call came in saying, well, we're going to shoot the first 5 episodes in Dallas, Texas.
Oh, jeez.
Bud. It was
Yeah.
like, oh, no. I'd never left my children, for even weekends. That was rare. We were always this little group in the country. And so I started making casseroles and freezing everything, and God forbid they should not do well without me.
Right.
And, anyway, I did the whole Martha Stewart thing before Martha. Martha. I didn't tell her. Anyway, that's what happened. And we were all like all these unemployed actors that that started this wonderful little show called Dallas. But we had to go to Dallas, and that was the scary part for me as a mother, leaving the kids. It was hard.
So do you think your success story, starting later in life and getting to star on a TV show, could happen to any woman approaching 40 today?
I think that's a fabulous, fabulous question. I think it's tricky. That's a tricky one to answer because I think some people can slip through the cracks. I always say to the young ones, don't give up on your dream. It doesn't matter. I didn't even know that they had a list in Hollywood of the people that have started late in life. And I was number 3 on the list. Oh, I couldn't believe it. I said, what do you mean they have a list like that? That's so silly. But I applaud anybody. I'm a cheerleader for anybody never giving up and following your dream. And but it is tricky. It seems that, that younger ones get all the yummy roles. Younger,
yes.
Still in their 40s.
Yeah.
It's tricky, and I think with now maybe with this movement and that diversity and the age, I think it's all changing. I think it really is. But bottom line, it's an individual situation where you just don't give up, and sometimes it's going to be challenging. You may have to have other jobs, 1 or 2, I don't know, on the side. It's a different time right now.
Have you had regular jobs since you've started acting?
I have. I've been, I just am so blessed in my career. I really am. And it's tricky right now. I've been doing wonderful things, even with the book, and people ask me to speak at places, and I just bought the rights to a book, and I'd like to see it as a feature film.
Ooh.
Or even a series on on television, like all the Netflix and Amazon and HBO shows that are out there. So, you just kind of keep following the yellow brick road and don't give up. So that's what I do. I don't.
What were some of your regular?
Which is very surprising, and at this age, it's quite interesting to take a look back in your career and then look at myself. I don't even know that I relate to the age that they say I am. It's like, what? How did that happen? I swear to you, it's like, how did I get to be this age?
Yeah.
And I don't feel any different. In fact, I feel better now than I have ever. And so it's the interesting thing about the perception, the Hollywood perception on age. That's quite interesting to me, because that's happening now, where they want somebody my age, and then I walk in and it's like, wait a minute, what are you doing here? It's very strange.
Yes.
So it's a strange phenomenon that's going on every level. So, you just keep forging ahead, and then you have to find. It's like women in our industry say there's no good roles for women, and I disagree with that. I also think that women have to find their own. You can't rely on agents and this one and this one and this one, because it all boils down to you. If you have the passion, that will magnetize good things to you. But you go you forge around, you dig around, you go find a great story. And, it's not as easy now as it was.
Did you have normal jobs since you started acting? Like, have you had to go out and, I got to pay the bills, so I have to go do something else? Or have you just been able to sustain yourself since Dallas with acting work and in the business, as they say?
I have, but I also I have been able to sustain. But I also didn't foolishly, and this is what I tell the young ones, I didn't foolishly spend my money. And I realized I was worth saving for. I was worth the investment. I was the product, and so I saved. I saved money. I didn't go out and buy crazy cars and do crazy things. I saved my money, and I invested in myself. And that's what I do tell the young ones. Don't just spend everything because you have it, because you could get canceled at any moment. And then what do? You have a nice fancy car that you have car payments on. And now you don't have a job in it. So I always encourage them to look ahead. And it's challenging when you've got a hot new series and they pay you a lot of money and you want to spend it. And I think, you treat yourself, but always invest it in yourself. Because I put money away, I did all that smart stuff, but I had people that said, okay, this is a good thing to invest in, and not so good with this one. So along the way, I learned, and I'm always learning. And sure, I've made mistakes, and sure, maybe I bought something that was too expensive, but it was never to zero out of my savings or anything.
Okay,
I always saved.
Very fascinating.
So the character you played, Sue Ellen, was kind of a drunk on the show.
I think.
But sadly, we read that your mom was also an alcoholic. Did that add to some authenticity to the role, or did it make it hard for you to go to work every day since you were dealing with that in real life and then having to portray it on TV?
Yeah, and actually, neither one. Sue Ellen was a different entity entirely. My mother wasn't like her at all. Mom was from the era. She was a fashion illustrator and a ballerina. And I think her frustration was that at that time of life where she was at the height, she was frustrated because she'd never fulfilled her dream. And I think that was one of the reasons where I never let go I never said, oh, well, I guess I'll never be an actor. I never let go because I had maybe an intuition, I don't know, about my mom. I thought, I think she gave up. I think she didn't fulfill her dream. And I feel, and I could be terribly wrong, that's why she started drinking. That was tricky when I handed her a stack of scripts when I found out that Sue Ellen was going to be an alcoholic. I took the big deep breath and thought, whoa, this is going to be tricky. So I said, Mom, I'd like you to read these scripts. And she did. And she called me, and we had a long talk, and she stopped drinking.
Really?
And, yep. And she went, because they lived in Palm Springs, it was when Betty Ford opened the Betty Ford Clinic. And she lived there in Palm Springs. She went right over to Betty Ford Clinic and stopped drinking. I mean, literally. And it was an amazing, there was no intervention. She just went. And I was so proud of her because she was pretty fragile, and and nobody talked about it at that time. Nobody said, "Wow, what is it?" And nobody knew like intervention. What is this? People didn't talk about it. That was, and it was not talked about, especially for a woman. So I was so proud of her for just standing up and saying, I have a problem. This is a disease. I've got to take care of it. And she did. God bless her.
What an outstanding story.
Yeah, and she, we were best friends. We were at the end, when I didn't like her growing up, at the end she was my best friend.
Nice. What a happy ending.
Yeah, for sure.
It was. It really was.
Dallas ran on television for 13 years, 1978 to 1991. And in the beginning, I just wonder, was there a feeling between the cast that you had something special that you knew was going to carry on for a long time? Or were you nervous when that season renewal time came up?
Well, there was never nervousness. We were all, like I said earlier, we were all unemployed actors. And we got the first 5. It was long before the word miniseries. I mean, if you can imagine that far back. But we did 5 episodes in Dallas, Texas. And then we came back, and then CBS ran the 5, and the audience seemed to like it. But the interesting thing is, as it doesn't happen today, they put us on the air on Saturday night, and it wasn't so good. Mm-hmm. People didn't tune in, and then they put us on Sunday night, not so good either. Then they thought, let's give these kids one more shot. Okay. And they put us on Friday night. That was magic. Because it was the Reagan era. It was, people didn't have any money. The young people have babies, and they couldn't afford to go out and pay a babysitter and have dinner and a movie. Too expensive, so they wanted to stay home. And it was the end of the work week, and they wanted something to take their mind off of the work that they had done all week. So it was a perfect night. So when they changed, and they wouldn't do that today. If you don't get the ratings, you're off.
Right.
You're off the air. So we were blessed that during that time that they kept us moving us around until we found our place.
Yeah, now they move shows around to promote other shows to be after, like we watched The Big Bang Theory, and that keeps moving to promote other shows that come after it.
Right, yeah.
And you're being moved to see what's going to make this thing work. That is unique.
Well, that's funny because I do remember the Friday night, and I do remember friends saying we're going out, and I remember saying, no, I have to go home and watch Dallas.
Those are the stories I love.
Yeah, I did. I'd be like, I'm going to go home and watch Dallas. Because we didn't have it, you couldn't tape it then. I mean, there wasn't really a huge, we certainly didn't have a DVR. If you wanted to tape it, you had to tape it on those clunky VHS things.
And those were expensive too.
It was awful. So I was always like, I'm just going to go home and watch Dallas.
See, you're the ones that we love. Yeah. Because you all tuned in to see us, but we didn't know who was watching us. So when I hear stories like you're telling me right now, those make me smile and be so grateful.
That was all the way through my high school years. And
Wow.
you were in my high school and college years, and I do remember going, I'm gonna just stay home and watch Dallas.
That's funny.
But they had in London. They used to have drinking parties, like whoever they'd follow a character, and they had to drink when that person drank. And I thought, oh my God, I hope they didn't follow Sue Ellen because she drank most. I think more than anybody. Yeah. She and JR. Anyway, but those were great stories. Thank you for watching.
You're welcome. I loved it
during those years.
So Who Shot JR was really the pivotal moment, I think, of the series. And there was no doubt that was going to get a 4th season renewal because everybody had to find out. My question for you is, how long was it before you, as a cast member, knew the answer? And how hard was it once you found out to keep that secret from everyone?
Well, let me tell you a little secret. If you'll go back, I mean, you don't have to, but if you can recall that when it was announced, Kristen, it was you who shot JR, those exact words. Mm-hmm. They were done. It wasn't on Sue Ellen. The camera focused right on Kristen's face, and it was done Sue Ellen did it in a recording booth. So I knew long before anybody else, and I had to keep that secret for a very long time. And so it was most horrendous for me because I knew. And there we were out there going, and then there was a strike. So the entire hiatus, summertime, was much longer than normal.
That was one of the best kept secrets. I mean, that did not leak anywhere.
No. Even the Queen. The Queen asked Larry. Larry went to London, and the Queen asked if he would tell her, and he said, "No, ma'am, not even for you."
Oh my gosh!
So you never told anybody?
No.
Not
in
even
fact, do you remember,
children. Nothing.
Good Morning America. Good Morning America.
Yeah.
With David Hartman.
Yeah.
I mean, now we're going way back.
Yeah, I was there.
I was in New York the week, I think, right the Monday before it aired on the Friday or something like that week. And David said, did anybody know? Yes. I said, yes. I said, one of my children guessed correctly.
Ooh.
But I didn't tell them.
Uh-huh.
Now, I got off the air and I panicked because I thought, I'd just let people know that one of my children has guessed correctly.
Oh, right.
So I thought, I called home immediately. I said, don't answer the phone. Don't do anything. Do not answer the phone. And the kids were like, why? What's the matter? I said, I'll tell you when I get home. And I said, just in the meantime, do not answer the phone.
Yeah.
But nobody picked up on it. Nobody called home.
Oh.
I mean, not that they had my phone
right.
But, it was still, I thought, oh, my gosh. I mean, even one of my friends could have called.
I was going to say, if I'd have been your friends or your kids' friends, I'd have been on the phone.
I know.
Which one of you guessed?
Exactly. I mean, I felt so, after all of those months, I felt so upset at myself.
Oh.
How could you do that? You've kept this secret forever. Anyway, that's what happened. So all my friends say, well, if we ever want to tell anybody a secret, we'll tell you.
Clearly you're good at keeping them. Yeah.
One of our listeners wrote in and Lisa wants to know, what happened to the furs that you wore on the show? Did you get to keep any of them?
Oh, no, we kept nothing. Everybody, it's tricky because then when you go out in public, people assume you're going to look like that.
Sure.
It's like, no, I'm like a normal person. No, the furs usually, they rented the furs. And that's how that happened. Okay. Rented the furs, then we returned them. But they were fun to wear. Sorry, I don't wear any anymore, but during that time it was fun. It was.
At the time you were shooting in Dallas, you left your kids behind back in California. You just mentioned that a little bit ago. You missed some really important moments in your kid's life. You mentioned your son's high school graduation, and your daughter was getting in trouble and that kind of thing. I just wonder, how did you regain control of your house once you came home? Because if they're used to mom kind of not being there for a month or two, how do you say, hey, the sheriff's back in town?
Well, that was the trickiest part because people nowadays, when they ask me that question, which is a very valid question, they forget that back then we had no Skype, we had no FaceTime, we had none of that.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have a cell phone. Even my daughter asked me a couple of years ago, she said, "How did you raise us without a cell phone?" Now, back then we didn't have any cell phones.
Right.
You do the very best that you can. And so it was just phone calls. That's all we could do. But it was really tricky. You come back into your own home and you realize that things had gotten a little lax, obviously. And, as much as you try to keep everything going, when we went in the summertime to Dallas, I would bring my daughter with a girlfriend so that they had something to do, because the hours are long when you're shooting. And, I couldn't entertain her or have her on the set all the time. So I would bring a girlfriend, and they would stay with me. And then the next month, I would bring my son and his friend. And so we kind of broke it up that way a little bit. But getting home was tricky, and the worst thing was missing my son's high school graduation. That was the worst. And, you do the whole parent guilt anyway, no matter what happens. It's like, I missed his football game or his baseball practice or something. Now I go to, my grandson is a basketball player, and I go to all his games, most that I can, and it doesn't make up for the fact that I missed that graduation. It doesn't. That will never, ever be fixed, but you have to move on, and that was the hardest one for me.
Do you think that your children hold it against you for not having been there?
We've talked about it, and I think that, of course, they did. It was like, wow, she's in Dallas, Texas, and I'm graduating. I'm sure they do, but I think now they've moved on, hopefully.
Yeah.
And and now because they're all grown up and doing all that, but that was just, it was so tricky. And I thought, I really kind of beat myself up, which I don't normally do, but it was like, I'm in Texas doing a stupid TV show and missing his graduation. Right. That made me crazy. And then thought, well, okay, this is what it is. So, you do the best you can as a parent, and sometimes you can't do 100% that you want to, but you do the best, and you explain to everybody, and hopefully they understand eventually.
Nick and I are both parents, and we are the primary stay-at-home parents, and we still miss stuff. Yeah. And it's a tough gig. I mean, it's a tough gig raising these kids.
I think so, because because I think that, like, when I look back, I mean, I think they needed my daughter needed one kind of parenting, my son needed another kind of parenting, and we all did the best that we could, and we're really close family now. But there were some lumps and some bumps, that I thought, oh God, I should, and you beat yourself up. As a parent, it's really challenging no matter what you do. And, you just say, if I could have done it better, I would have. And you just pray that they turn out to be okay.
Yeah.
And then mine, in that case, did. Thank God.
Wow. Going back to Dallas, it's kind of a natural progression, especially these days, for the stars of a television show to end up directing episodes. And Larry Hagman had done it. Patrick Duffy did it. And around 1986, you were taking steps to be able to direct as well. So you approached the producers. You wanted to direct an episode, and they just flat out said no. And then this is what's crazy about it, is they ended up firing you from the show. So I just wondered, was that an ultimatum that you said, you either let me direct or I'm going to go? And they're like, all right, see ya. Or how did that go from a no to you're fired?
Great question. Well, I didn't want to be one of these actors on a hit TV show that says, oh, me too, I want to direct. It wasn't that at all. I wanted to make sure that, I was bored. It was season 8. And I had gone to the producers and I said, can you please change or add to my the plot, my story.
Your story,
line
yeah.
Sue Ellen Ewing. Yeah, I said, I'm bored. I drink and have an affair, and then I drink some more, and I have another couple of affairs, and it's boring me as an actor, and I think that as an audience is going to pick this up. Not that I'm going to, purposely look bored.
No,
not at all. But internally, you women were changing. It was a changing time, and I said, this is boring me. I want to ask you if you will please, give me some other things to do. And they patronizingly patted me on the shoulder, literally, and said, "But you do it so well." And I thought,
what you want to hear.
Oh, no, don't do that.
Right.
Anyway, so I studied with a wonderful female French director, tough as nails. And she said, if you want to direct, I'm a taskmaster, and I won't let you go direct until I feel that you are prepared. And that's what I wanted, too. I didn't want to just say, I'm going to direct and not know what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
So Larry had directed, Patrick had directed. And it wasn't like, I want to direct, too. It wasn't that. It was like I really wanted to, because it was a more creative something rather than drinking and having affairs. I thought, I'm going to do that. And so I studied with her. She taught me everything. It was wonderful. She was terrific. And she said, okay, you're ready. So then the end of season 8 came, and it was time for negotiations. So they came to me and they said, okay, how much money do you want? What do you want? And I said, I don't want any more money, thank you. I want to direct one episode in 52 coming up, the next 52 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And they said no. And they said, well, so how much? And they just didn't hear me. Anyway, the answer was no. La, la, la. And so they said, is there anything else we can do? And I said, no. I said, I just want to direct one episode in the next 52 episodes. And they said, no, we don't want you to. And then they said, well, if you do, then all the other women will want to direct. So I thought, well, that's really silly. So anyway, I went to Barbara, and I went to Victoria, and I went to Charlene, and I said, do you guys want to direct? And they said, hell no, we don't want to. And so I said, okay. So I trotted back, and I said, they don't want to direct. And so they saw that I wasn't rude or mean or anything. I just said, just give me one, guys, come on. And so finally they said, well, if that's what you want, if that's all you want, then we have to let you go.
Unbelievable. Wow.
I was like, wow, shocked. Anyway, so at the end of season 8, I went home, and Larry called me. He said, it was a great season. I loved your work. Loved working with you, blah, blah, blah. I'll see you next season. And I told Larry, I said, Larry, I'm devastated. I said, they said that they didn't want me to come back because I wanted to direct one episode. And he said, you're kidding, which we all did. We were all like, kidding me. And so he went in, bless Mr. Hagman, and he went in and he said, if she goes, I go. And I don't know whether he would have gone. I don't think so. But anyway, it was a nice gesture on his part, very generous. And so they, I guess, thought, well, he's serious. Let's bring her back, drag her back.
Drag her back.
And they did. And Larry was really lovely and supportive. And, it was a time where women did not direct. And so for me to get that really lovely support from him was quite something.
And it turned out that you ended up directing 5 episodes of the series. So
I did.
That was pretty cool.
Well, because I wanted it to be, I didn't want to disappoint, and I wanted to do it for me, and I wanted to do it the best that I could possibly do, and I did, and I loved it. I loved directing, and I didn't realize the impact that a woman director would have. A year ago, I was in London, and I was directed by two women in separate episodes for a little show I did, and I asked them. I said, "How is it?" And they said, "Well, it's getting better." Now, this is from 1986 to present day, and they're just telling me it's getting better, but it's not terrific. So I'm really supportive for any woman director out there.
Now, did the people who said no to you give you praises after?
They did.
Yay.
Reluctantly, I
Thank
think.
goodness. I had to find that out.
I don't know, but
Well,
I'm proud of myself and proud of Larry and proud that they finally gave in. And what they did, though, is that was for 2 years. That was for the next 2 years. And part of the new contract was that I had to give them an extra year. I had to give them year 11. So it was, they got me. You know, I didn't care.
Yeah.
I didn't care. I said, okay, you can be just nasty. I don't care. But it was like, it didn't bother me at the very end. I thought, okay, that's their job. So I got to do what I wanted to do, and
that's
anyway.
great. Yeah. Now, Larry Hagman, we miss him. He was such a legendary actor. You were friends for 37 years. Now, what I'm wondering is, if he were here today, what do you think he would want us to remember most about him?
You know, Larry had sides to him that I think nobody really knew in depth. But he was the consummate actor, and he did it so well when he started with I Dream of Jeannie, and then, you know, those magic moments that he played the comedy, and then switched over to The Man You Love to Hate. I think he would be most proud of the way that he entertained people. He loved entertaining people, and you know, from his mother, Mary Martin, whom I loved. She started him. She had Larry when she was 17, and she was on Broadway. So he grew up with those entertainment genes, and he would most want to be remembered as, I think, an entertainer and a wonderful human being. We always threw that in. He'd always go, "Oh no." He's the person you would call if you needed emergency help, and he wouldn't even ask why. He would just be there, or be there with money or whatever. But his friendship was extraordinary. That's why we were so close, he and Patrick and I. It was an extraordinary friendship and a working relationship, and that's rare in our business.
So you and Larry had some great chemistry on screen. And even in interviews, you both seem to naturally play off each other. In the 20 years between the end of Dallas and the reboot of Dallas, how often did you guys get to see each other or spend any time together?
Well, we had a minimum once a month we'd have lunch or dinner. Not a month went by without seeing each other. You know, he was close to my children. I knew and loved his kids. You know, we'd go to his home. He had this wonderful home in Malibu in the early days, and we would walk down the beach. And I mean, he was very eccentric, and he'd wear like weird clothes and hats and things, and we'd all carry flags from around the world. We'd just follow Larry like the Pied Piper down Malibu Beach.
Fun.
And then he moved to Ojai, and so, you know, we'd go up there and have lunch and or dinner or whatever, and it never went longer than a month without seeing each other during the 20 years. 20 years hiatus. That's bizarre.
That's a long time to be on hiatus.
Long time.
So 20 years later, Dallas returns to television, 2012. When did you first hear that the show was coming back? And when you heard, did it coming back rely on the cast, the original cast, rejoining?
Well, it was 2 years prior to that. We had all received a call from Warner Brothers, like 2010, I think, and we all got this weird call, and someone at Warner Brothers said, "Would you be interested in a reboot of Dallas?" And we were like, "Wow, wouldn't this be fun to work together and play together? Oh my gosh, that'd be great." We all said, "Yes, let's do it." And then there were scripts that came in that were like, not so good.
Ooh.
And then we never heard again from anybody about anything for 2 years. So we thought, well, that got us all excited. It was a tease, and we were disappointed and all this. And then 2 years late after that, we received a script and a call saying, would you still be interested? and we were like 5-year-olds calling each other. We were like, oh, my God. And they had chosen the 3 of us. Thank God. And we thought if they just chose Larry, would we have been terribly disappointed?
Yeah.
Anyway, they chose the 3 of us to come back as the older Ewings, the wiser Ewings, I call us.
We have to be the matriarchs and the patriarchs. You got to have one.
We had to have the older, wiser ones. So we all said, of course, yes, and we were thrilled. And then they brought in, obviously, the younger, hotter, sexier ones, and that's. I mean, we were beyond thrilled. I mean, who has that? I just couldn't think of another actors, plural, that were invited 20 years after they had created these characters to come back and do it again. So we were just, over the moon with this one. So we went, we had a great time with great people, loved the kids, and we're sorry that it went off the air.
Yeah, for sure. Sadly, while filming season 2, we lost Larry. How hard was it to film that funeral episode after already going through the real funeral? Having to do that over just seems like torture.
It was the weirdest part for me personally was that it was Linda Gray and Sue Ellen having lunch together. I was like, oh boy, we got to combine this. This is hard, challenging, the word, to play saying goodbye yet again on film. People forget that those are scripted. All those words, we don't invent them. They are scripted. And it was hard for me to even read it, let alone memorize it. I was like, oh, my God. So the interesting thing that people don't know is that on the day of the filming, I had asked the producers, whom I adored, I said, could you do me a favor? And I never asked for favors. I said, could you give me 3 cameras and 1 take? Because I can't do this over and over and over again. It's too challenging. And I just didn't want to stand there and start crying and doing all that. I thought, oh, God. So I asked them, I said, could you please, knowing that they needed all the angles and they needed an angle on the people sitting the cast. So I said, please, 3 cameras and 1 take. And they were brilliantly cooperative. They said, you got it, no problem.
Awesome.
And so we started filming. And about, maybe 4 sentences in, a helicopter went right over.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and we had to cut. And I thought, okay, I'll take deep breath. We had to start over. And it went on. I think it was the gardener's blower was next, and the dogs were next. And
so much for your idea.
And finally, I was so crazed and so upset because I had to keep that right. I had to keep right on focus. Yeah. I had to not veer either way and let a helicopter disrupt anything or a dog or a blower. So I looked up to the sky and I said, Larry, stop messing with me. And we all started laughing. And I thought, you can't be, you're the center of attention. You're in this casket's right here with the flag and it's all about you, darling. We're all focusing on you. So leave me alone and back off. And we all started laughing. And then we started taking it again, and it was perfect.
Oh.
So it's just a little off-camera thing that I think people will laugh about.
In season 3 of Dallas, you had over 2 million people watching per episode, yet it was still canceled. How do you react when you learned about the ending again?
Well, that's a really tough subject because we were all furious the way it was handled. With 2 million people still wanting to see the show, and it was left in a disrespectful way, as far as I'm concerned. And Dallas there was respect for the show. There were 2 million people that had done the hashtag Save Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought if I owned the network, I would say, wow, wait a minute. Let's do this. Let's bring it back.
Right.
I thought still, to this day, that they should have done, given the audience, they didn't respect the audience, they didn't respect the franchise, the whole thing that we had originated, that they should have done 5 more shows. Maybe 3, I don't know.
Right,
and
or even a long special.
A little 3-episode thing. Bring us back, say, okay, we're going to find out who the father is. We're going to find out if Christopher dies in that car crash. We're going to find out, and we're going to sew it up, and we're going to give the show the respect that it deserves. That was my hit. I thought, why didn't they do that? Because when I was working in London after the show was canceled, they were furious. They said it disrespected the fans. And we had such a loyal, fabulous fans. And to this day, like, I love hearing your story, Elizabeth, earlier about you spending high school and college with us. Great fans. And to me, it was disrespectful. And I remember being in Los Angeles at a stop signal, a red light, looking at a billboard, and it said, the final season of Mad Men. Be sure to watch or something. And I thought, that's all they had to do, is alert the fans that it was going to be over and you're never going to see these crazy Ewings again. Give it the respect that it deserved, and they didn't, and that's what made me upset. And this is just me talking.
Sure, yeah.
Well, no, but even as a fan of television, I don't like that. I understand that sometimes it's business and sometimes you end up getting rid of a show. But as a person who's been watching and has invested my time and energy into it, I like neat packages. I would like to have seen, just wrap it up for me, and then you can go. But I 100% agree, because that drives me crazy when I will be a fan of a show and I just read that it didn't get picked up, and I'll be like,
but what happened?
Yeah, right. Like I was in the middle of something there, like I get it, but it drives me crazy.
Did you have scripts for season 4?
They were kind of working on them, the writers. And they did. They had at the very end, when we found out that John Ross had a sister, it was like, a sister? Oh, my God. And then it was like, well, what happened with that?
Well, that's why I wanted to know if you knew the answers to those questions.
Right.
I did not know the answer to who the sister was. I knew. We were all kind of surprised. We kind of were like, a sister? Where did that come from?
Right.
So, it was a perfect, layup for the next season. However, it didn't happen.
She has got so many great stories. Unfortunately, we've reached our time for this week, but Linda's going to join us again next week to finish a wonderful conversation.
Yay, a 2-parter. I love that.
It's not often that we do a 2-parter, but when we've got so much great material, it's really hard to get to it in one show. So we don't rush anything and have to edit a whole bunch of stuff out. We're going to give you Linda Gray again next week.
Yay!
In the meantime, head over to lindagray.com, where you can see on the homepage, The Road to Happiness is Always Under Construction is available as a hardcover, and it's personally autographed by Linda Gray herself. It costs just $26. It includes domestic shipping. If your order needs international delivery, you will receive a PayPal payment request from Linda's team for the additional amount for the international shipping, and they will get that book to you. Pretty cool stuff. You can also get an autographed 8x10 photo by Linda Gray for just $10, and she'll sign that to you personally. Awesome stuff from Linda Gray. Head over to her website, lindagray.com. Also, we are looking for reviews of this show. If you loved this show and you can't wait to hear part 2 next week, help us out. Go to iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, anywhere where you're listening to this podcast, give us a nice review. Tell everybody how great the show is. Share this on your Facebook page. Help us bring our show to a whole new audience. We are counting on you, and we can't wait to hear the rest of Linda Gray.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.